Yeah, deer is delicious. It provides one challenge. After you've managed the age by denuding some of the muscles from the fascia and using that fascia, your challenge is the leanness. So
right.
Deer are frustratingly lean. And that is probably not the case across the whole country. I think some deer will get a serious fat cap and maybe even some serious fat in between the muscles of their flesh, which is cool.
Really?
But they will very rarely, if ever, unless, again, by concerted effort, which usually only happens through generations of domestication, they will never have marbling.
Okay.
Marbling is really forgiveness for all cooking.
Right.
Like it's just, there's fat in between each muscle
fiber.
You're not going to overcook it. It's going to be harder at least to make it dry and chewy.
Yeah.
Whereas deer is highly prone to dryness and chewitude because it has zero marbling. Mm-hmm. And even the fat cap, is not quite enough. It's wonderful. It's good. But it's lean. Mm-hmm. And that's the challenge. So I think part of your hunting equipment, your setup, should be a cooney in the backyard.
Right.
You should have a little lard pig.
And a larding needle.
You will love it. I mean, really,
yeah.
I'm not being facetious. I think hunters should raise a little fat lard pig. Mm-hmm. Not only... They're so easy to raise. They're so little. Mm-hmm. They don't eat a lot. And they turn it all into fat. And there's very few people that actually really want all the fat that a lard pig giveth. Mm-hmm. But hunters do. Because the deer giveth none. Mm-hmm. But the lard pig will just be 70% pork back fat. And guess what you need for all your deer is pork back fat.
Yeah.
And that is essential not only for fresh cooking of the, if you're going to do it. Why is he opening the smoker? Johnny.
Oh, I'll go talk to him.
We just started the smoker and my kids are like, hey, let's play in the smoker with the fire and stuff. Oh, God. You want the back fat not only for larding and barding, which we'll talk about, but primarily for the sausage, if you're going to make sausage. Did you happen to notice if any flame was coming up out of the Weber?
No.
Okay, good.
None.
Perfect. Looks like blue smoke, which is what we want.
Yeah.
But speaking of using the back fat, you can use it for larding and barding, which I think we'll talk about, but especially for the sausage. So venison meat is weird. It's if you grind it and you make a sausage out of it, it has the tendency to turn into rubber. It's a weird thing. Anyone that has had venison burgers will experience this slightly unfortuitous surprise. It's like rubbery. If you grind venison meat, and then you grill it, and if you grill it just to like a point of doneness, not really even overcooked, it's rubbery and dry. And that's because it's extremely lean. And it is very easily broken down. So it is highly susceptible. Maybe, no, I'm not going to speculate. I don't know why. But it is highly susceptible to the emulsification process, which is not really the emulsification process technically, but it's where the enzymes in the meat, through the grinding friction, the myosin conversion happens, which undoes proteins. Okay. And so it makes it a paste really quickly. And then if you cook that paste, it cooks it into rubber. And it's a very unpleasant thing. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to venison, because I love venison burgers, I do grind it. I try to do it on a coarser grind. And it's a little weird, but it makes sense though. You don't want to mix it at all, which is hard.
Okay.
Kind of silly. So, and this is assuming you're not adding any fat to it, because as we'll talk about, fat is forgiveness. Okay. But if you're just grinding it for like ground venison. Okay. And even when I'm wrapping it, like I'm barely touching it. I'm trying to not touch it while I'm wrapping it, which is almost impossible.
Because you don't want that chemical conversion to happen.
Yeah, and it happens through friction. If you mix it, you'll just turn it into this homogeneous paste with no chunks and no air, and it'll just be rubber. It's like a glue. And so when I grind it, like I'll try to grind it onto a flat sheet all at the same height. You know what I mean? The same depth, like an inch or whatever, or inch and a half.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of like cut them
Oh my gosh.
into burgers. And then you slip those on the frying pan or on the barbecue.
Okay.
And it really helps. It's significant. You don't want to mix it up too much.
Dedication.
Yeah. And the rubberiness is not that bad. Okay. I'm obsessing a little bit here. But I do like, you lose some of the juiciness and the full flavor.
I know.
So
yeah.
That's if you're just doing straight ground venison.
Yeah.
And I have never had venison fat that tastes poorly, so I always try to I never trim any of the fat on the carcass, and I'll throw that right in with the grind too.
It needs it.
Yeah, absolutely. But really what it needs is what all sausage needs, which is pork back fat.
Yeah.
And that is the subcutaneous fat of pork, which has a little more collagen in it than, say, the internal body fat. A little more protein. So it keeps its structure. It stays in nice fat little chunkies when it runs through a grinder. It is not pasted by the grinder. It's not turned into extruded as strictly a paste. It's actually chopped into little chunks. Mm-hmm. And that is the key to sausage enjoyment. Mm-hmm. And with I say for any sausage, for pork, like I want it to be 30% back fat,
right.
A pork sausage. And that's pork that has lots of inter and intramuscular fat to boot. But venison has none. And so when I make venison sausage, I'm like, yeah, we need 50% pork back fat.
Yeah.
And then 50% venison. And I know that sounds crazy, but you just need to trust me.
No, oh yeah.
This is why you need your lard pig in the backyard. And you want to do it on a coarser grind.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't even know what plates I have. I have 2 plates on my grinder. One has small holes, one has big. And the big ones are probably 3/8. Yeah, they're 3/8.
Yeah.
So 3/8 is great. That works really well. Grind the venison on that, and then grind equal quantity of pork back fat.
And then you will then mix it with the vigor.
Then you can mix it by hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at that point, the mixing is a matter of taste. Do you like a sausage with a little more texture, or do you want it to be a little more homogeneous? The more you mix it, the more homogeneous it will be. Mm-hmm. And that's my solution for the ground lean venison problem, is add lots lard pig. Lard pig is the solution.